Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's GITEX.virtual webinar brought to you by Avaya. On behalf of the Dubai World Trade Center, I'd like to wish all of you a very big thank you and welcome for taking time out of your hectic schedules to join us for today's session on the future of remote working. Dubai World Trade Center is excited to welcome all of you to GITEX Technology Week from the 6th to the 10th of December later this year. In the meantime, we're very lucky to have a selection of experts who are here with us today to shed light on the ways that organizations can successfully transition to a fully fledged culture of remote working. The COVID-19 pandemic has created mass chaos and confusion, but one thing that now seems inevitable is the rise in remote working. Put quite simply, the rise in remote working, or indeed the focus on it, has become a critical strategic priority for businesses and governments across the world. Research has shown that 74% of CFOs and business finance leaders are intending to move their previous on-site workforce to a fully fledged remote working base, while the world's most powerful economy, the United States, has already revealed that its remote workforce now supersedes its total working population. Today, we will explore some of the most important issues that organizations now face in the transition to remote working culture. And we will hear from organizations including Morrow Hub, the regional digital transformation leader. We'll hear expert analysis from Frost & Sullivan, and we will of course hear from Avaya. Throughout the course of today's sessions, we encourage you, our audience, to interact with us using the Q&A and chat functions at the bottom of your screen. If you have any questions for our panelists and speakers, please post them on the Q&A section. If you have any comments at all on the topics, please use the chat function. Without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to welcome our first speaker of today's sessions. He's a veteran of the Middle East IT industry with over 15 years experience in the sector. He is driving Avaya's customer-centric and outcome-based approach. Welcome, Fadi Hani, Vice President for the Middle East, Africa and Turkey from Avaya.
Thank you, James. Thank you. It's great to be here today.
Thank you. Very, very happy to have you, Fadi. I won't take up any more of your time. I'll hand over the floor to you now for today's first session.
Thanks, James. Good morning and good afternoon, and pleased to be here today. Exciting times always around GITEX, although it is a different setting. However, I would like to welcome all of you. Happy to talk to you today and be part of a discussion team that will put some ideas together and hopefully get out some takeaways from today. My name is Fadi Hani, as James said. I'm the Vice President of Avaya in the Middle East and Africa, and I'm humbled to be talking to you today and presenting to you some of our learnings. You know, Avaya has always been known for its experiences that matter, and that's what we carry along, what we want to deliver to our customers. And this is experiences that connects people together, connects employees, connects customers to businesses, connects even businesses together. So our experiences are centered around the relevance that they make in different sectors. And across the world during this pandemic, I am glad to share with you that we have helped more than 2.5 million people to work remotely. And when I say 2.5 million, this includes people who are agents in contact centers or normal employees who are asked to work from home. 2.5 million people, including some schools that we have helped to educate our children remotely using the best video collaboration tools, as well as content sharing and whiteboarding. We have helped agents serve you as customers remotely from their home. And that's the beauty and the power of the Avaya technology. It was capable to expand, and it was capable to help these customers and our schools and the hospitals to continue to operate remotely as much as possible. Of course, there has been always constraints, and especially for the physical attendance. On the contact center, Avaya has more than 5 million seats globally and 100 million plus unified communication seats. That's just to give you the size of the impact that we are making globally. I'll talk to you today a little bit about the future of customer service. And in this, you know, the future is being drawn today as we speak. And it's been impacted severely and heavily by COVID-19. I would say it was impacted positively in a way. Positively in a way, it has accelerated some of the adoption that was there already. You know, there was not, to my knowledge, you know, new technologies, breakthroughs that happened, at least in the customer experience, on the customer service, that has made, you know, a tremendous impact on, from a technology point of view, on customer experience. There was more impact on the speed of the adoption and the acceleration of the rollout of some of the technologies, and I will share with you some of these. So before COVID, pre-COVID, Avaya has run some survey, and we've found out from our customers, you across the region, that 73% of consumers say that their expectation of customer experience has increased. That means customers has started asking for more from the businesses, that they prefer to go on the digital way. They prefer to be connected digitally with the businesses in order to get served. And this is not a secret or not a surprise that 70% would like to have a mix between the digital and the traditional, particularly around voice and email. 82% of consumers in general were more or less happy with what they have been receiving as a service. However, with this pandemic coming in, things have changed, and contact centers have shut down. Connecting businesses and consumers has started to be a challenge. Those who were ready from an infrastructure point of view, from a cloud point of view, were able to continue marginally and to a great extent in the first round or the first waves of the pandemic, continue serving customers. And some of them send their agents home, send their employees home, and if they had the right infrastructure, they were able to continue and serve their customers. But in reality, during this, there was a lot of lessons being learned. Let me start by sharing with you some of these lessons. And here it says post-COVID-19, as a matter of fact, meaning post the beginning of COVID-19, rather than post the finish, because obviously we are way short from being finished with this pandemic. Hopefully soon we will. However, as we speak, and according to World Health Organization, this is going to take some time. Getting the vaccination, rolling it out to 7-8 billion people across the globe is going to take some time. And we're talking about years. So we're going to live with this for some time. So post-COVID-19, lessons learned, number one, work from anywhere, not only from home. So what did we learn? What are the things that you need to take care of when we send employees and agents to work from home? Number one are the tools. And saying the obvious, the tools means the digital tools, the collaboration tools, the laptops themselves. You know, we struggled, and our customers struggled a lot, even at the beginning phase of the pandemic, to get laptops because they ran out of the supply of the laptops. They have to get equipped with the right microphone, the right speakers, the right video conferencing and video tools, the right office, the right furniture, as a matter of fact. And there is a lot being now rolled out in terms of how is a home office looks like, or a home desk looks like. So the tools are most important. Second is we need to take care of people now starting to work from home. It is not going to be easy, and it is not straightforward for sure, that people get disconnected socially when they start working from home for a long period, especially those who are used in certain job functions, who are used to meet people and talk to people every time. So here is a small trick or tip that we do and use, and we have a water cooler video call that is open all the time. We call it a water cooler, obviously, so that people can come in and have a chat. It is not to do business. It is not to talk about business. It's actually to simulate a water cooler or a kitchenette conversation, or a coffee machine, or a coffee room conversation between people. And we have also a hangout room. And this hangout room, if you just go in and sit and chat with your other colleagues. So it is very important that we keep that social link between the agents or the employees who will start working remotely for a long time. Skill development, last but not least, in the work from anywhere. Not everyone will be able to do work from home or from anywhere. There is a lot of development on the skills of the people in order to manage their time, in order to be more disciplined, or to be disciplined, in order to know how to attend to the calls. This whole experience of being virtual requires some training and investment from companies and businesses. And we ask you to make sure you look at how you will develop people's skill who are working remotely, and make sure there is the right assessment that they are capable of working remotely. Lessons learned part 2 is focused on the cloud. Goes without saying, cloud and cloud technologies are the future of the move to the digital world, are the future of transformation. They have been there, and now what happened? Number one thing, cloud adoption accelerated. We've seen cloud, being adopted in a very significant and high way in the countries wherever it is available. And not only that, but customers started looking at flexible models within cloud. So in cloud, you have a hybrid model, you have a public and a private cloud, you have a subscription model that could be on-premise or off-premise. There's a lot of functions or ways of delivering services and software and technology to customers that have seen acceleration, and cloud comes at the top of it. One very important lesson, and we've seen that because of the pandemic, there is a kind of security taking a backseat for some time. Later on, as things become more stable, customers and all of you should be looking and scrutinizing the security piece on the cloud. How is security managed? What kind of privilege you as a customer is capable of running on the cloud, whether that's a private cloud hosted off-premise, or that is a public cloud. You have to look at your rights on securing your data in this journey to the cloud. Lessons learned 3 is redesigning the organization. And I think this is the most difficult one. And this is the biggest must in all organizations. The world is not the same. And this is not a cliche. This is a serious change. We are moving into a new era. And the organization has to redesign itself in order to accommodate the changes. Redesign itself to start with redesigning the customer experience. Customers are not buying in the same way anymore. You as an organization and a business are not delivering the customer promise in the same way. There are now new ways of delivering the promise. And your policies and procedures and processes as a company company and as a business has to be redesigned, re-looked at. Now, employees are working from home. There is a different policy for that. Maybe it is the difference in housing allowance. Maybe it is allowances to equip themselves. Maybe it is a security, mitigation or risk management. Maybe it's monitoring, and the processes that are linked to delivering the customer experience has to be changed. Now I am not delivering the product the way I used to. So my internal processes and procedures have to cater to the new customer experience. So the redesign of the organization, in my humble opinion, is the biggest task that organizations have to start looking at. And number one of that redesign is the customer experience, and then the rest will flow after that. CX, customer experience, is an organization-wide thing. Nobody should think about it as somebody's own job. It is not the business job. It is not the customer service department. It is not the complaint management. It is everybody's job. It is something that today employee experience is powering the customer experience. That means everybody in the organization should be included and is in a way or another delivering customer experience. And therefore, they are more or less linked together. You make an employee happy with his employee experience, the collaboration tool he uses, the environment he works in, the team he works with, then you immediately have a positive impact on your customer experience. And that is a very instrumental, and it's not a change, by the way. So the CX being organization-wide is not something that is imposed by COVID again. It is, and I reiterate, it's been accelerated by the pandemic. A lot of the things that we see in the customer experience and employee experience has been accelerated by the presence of the pandemic. Finally, this is a list of our Avaya customers worldwide. We help organizations in different verticals, from travel to commercial to financial to logistics, across the globe. We help them embrace the new world of work, whether in employee experience, unified communication, video collaboration, or in the customer experience with the best of breed artificial intelligence tools and all of the customer interaction and customer management applications. I would invite you to be part of this. We would be more than happy to talk to you at any point. You can reach out to us and the team will assist you and will give you experiences from other countries and other regions and other verticals on how to adapt to the new world of work. This is all from my side. Looking forward to seeing you all in GITEX 2020. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fadi. Indeed, as you say, for a lot of organizations, it will be a case of breaking habits of a lifetime. We've got a few questions for you actually from our audience. Good question here for you actually, Fadi. Business culture and creativity are most often affected when people aren't together physically. What collaboration tools do you think are able to help businesses preserve that creative culture?
The advancement that is going on with the video collaboration tools is giving the edge to everyone for improved sharing of contents. So I give you an example. Today, the Avaya Spaces can help you manage a project. It is not a video tool. It's not a video conferencing tool. It's a collaboration, a true collaboration tool where people can put in their ideas, others can see it, update it, complement it, and share it and publish it. And then you see the single version of that shared by everyone. I think that creativity, and looking at the half full cup, creativity needs to increase in the pandemic. You're asked to come up with more ideas to address the problem. So the tools are there. It is what we need to focus on is that we generate this creativity and turn it into a product.
Absolutely. Necessity is indeed the mother of invention after all. Again, I'm sure a lot of our audience are kind of keen to hear how your solutions and how your services can help SMEs as well as enterprises. Are the kind of things you've talked about purely confined to the enterprise, or can they be adopted on a wider scale by SMEs as well?
Whatever we discussed on our lessons learned and strategies are really more actually convenient to be adopted by SMEs, particularly because SMEs have a shorter decision making. So if you look at smaller companies, obviously the decision to go to cloud is faster, the adoption, the impact of decisions is faster. So the strategies and everything we talked about actually applies to SMEs equally as to enterprises.
Absolutely. Let's say hypothetically in the next 18 months to 2 years, the world of work does in fact return to normal and people do start working physically in offices again. How do you think organizations can adopt technology in a way that allows them or gives them the flexibility to adapt should that return to physical work take place?
James, I have to disagree a bit with you on this. Just a personal opinion, I don't think there is that back to normal thing. It's just not going to happen. There is the new normal. And this is a terminology that was there even before the pandemic. The new normal is work from home, work from anywhere. People will, unfortunately, as much as I hate to say that myself, I love working with people face to face directly, but that is not going to happen. So companies need to revisit the way they're thinking about that future and adapting it. And I know of many companies started already looking at, how do we need to divide the workforce? What kind of tools do we need to make sure when we send people home, that we're able actually to manage their performance and their metrics. And that's important on the technological part. So, welcome to the new normal, James.
No, I was just purely asking your opinion, Fadi. That wasn't necessarily an opinion of my own. Moving on though, do you think with all this in mind, I mean, obviously technology has become, top of mind for businesses and governments across the world, if it wasn't already prior to the pandemic. But do you think this shift in particular will cause a drastic shift or a drastic increase in organizations' IT expenditure? And can we expect the average business to invest significantly more in technology, given the current situation?
Well, if you're asking whether there will be drastic more investment in IT, I would not say so. I would say that the impact of moving to the cloud in general will reduce the burden on capital expenditure on IT, on CapEx. And the move to the OpEx, although over 5 years or 7 years time, it might turn out to be similar in total cost of ownership. However, as immediate expenditure, in my opinion, the move to subscription, cloud, all the other OpEx models that are being introduced as a result of the pandemic will put less pressure on the IT expenditure, but more pressure on the IT team to make sure that they select the right technology and they put the right scope of that technology.
Absolutely. I think we've got time for one more question here, a good one from the audience again, one which I'm sure you'll have some good opinions on. How can organizations be prepared for increased cyber risks that come with remote working?
There are a couple of things that companies need to look at. Again, back to the cloud security. So you need to look at when you get a certain provider, let's say a video conferencing, video collaboration tool from a certain vendor, you have to look at what is their background in terms of security, what kind of access they can give you to do penetration testing. That is, for the staff, as well as on your on-premise, that puts a lot of also pressure on your security team to make sure that whatever new tools being used are not exposed to cyber security threats. So yes, there has to be a more intense focus on security in the future.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. It's going to be certainly a time of great change, but particularly, like you say, with cybersecurity, organizations will have to be especially vigilant. Anyway, moving on. Thank you very much, Fedi. Thank you very much for getting today's sessions underway, and indeed for giving us a sort of glimpse into what the future of work offers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, it gives me great pleasure to welcome an expert who's joining us today from Singapore. He is the Director and Head of Asia Pacific region for the Connected Work practice from Frost & Sullivan, and he is an expert in connected work and customer experience. Welcome, Krishna Baija.
Thank you, James. It's a great pleasure to be here in this forum.
Pleasure to have you, Krishna. I will hand over to you now. Thanks very much.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be in this forum. My name is Krishna. I'm based out of Singapore. I lead Frost & Sullivan's Connected Work research practice for Asia Pacific in the region. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. I'm glad that you all took the time to join us, and you are doing really well considering the time we are living in. So let me dive in right into my presentation. And in this presentation, we'll be taking a glimpse into what Frost & Sullivan see the future of work as unveiling. Business today needs to cater not only to changing customers' demand, but align well with employees, suppliers, partners to be effectively competing in the market. The face of the modern workplace is changing as it places unique demand on employers. When we talk about future of work, we really need to think this around three key aspects: nature of work, the workplace, and the workforce. In the recent years, there has been ongoing transformation due to increased globalization, automation, and digitization. The emergence of the borderless organization also means huge diversity among employees, whether it's based on the locations, the generations, language, culture, etc. And work is not a job. Today, work is not a physical location anymore. It has become an ongoing task with no defined time or physical boundaries, seamlessly integrated with our personal lives. Workers demand their employers to provide them with technologies and tools that are the best fit for their demographic, for their job function, for their industry to be more productive, and to jointly contribute to the creation of customer value within the business. COVID-19 will be a key influencer and accelerator of these trends. But before we move on, I would like to understand how we saw remote work before the pandemic. Let's take a quick poll. So before the pandemic, what we really wanted to understand is what the organization's stance was on remote work. And why is this important? Because I just want to have a feel in terms of the differences, what we had to go through. Right. I think we can move on to the results of the poll. Wow. So if we look at this, right, everyone at my organizations works at the same office, 58%. And only about 28% had the opportunity when they can move to work from home as needed. So basically what we are looking at is predominantly we have been working from a fixed office, a location where we really had to go. But what happened then when the COVID happened, right? Everyone knows. So this kind of gives us the kind of scale at which the challenges faced us. So COVID-19 just happened and it just thrown us under the bus, if I may say. No one was caught aware of this. And the challenges what we went through, or we are actually going through at this point of time, is unprecedented, right? But at the same time, we need to look at it in a very different way, I believe, as an optimist. I guess we'll see there's an opportunity to explore new possibilities. Think about this. Few months back, right? Who would have thought about the changes that we observed in the last 4 or 5 months? This has fast forward organizations into the future of the most dynamic ways. Many of the things what we used to think that is possible, it can only happen in future years. We're already doing that, right? So many believe that COVID-19 has accelerated organizations' digital transformation strategy by at least about 5 to 6 years. So now, when we are staying at home or able to work from any other places rather than just the fixed offices, there are other folks who didn't have that option. The people who are in the front line, they really had to be at the place where they really needed. And in that cases, what really was important to having a communication and collaboration tools that is the lifeblood for those organizations to be able to make an integrated communication fabric so that they are able to support mission critical workflows without further delay. And what we have seen that remote work growth stats, it's very much obvious that most of us probably in this call have been either working from home or maybe going to office only when it's really, really needed, right? So Frost & Sullivan, based on our discussion with the industry folks, what we believe that, at this point of time, more than 50% folks in the office space, they have been working from home, or even the contact center folks as well. But what we believe when we kind of move into the new normal, we're still gonna be having so much of remote workers to be present in the scenario. So the expectation is for office workers, probably 25 to 30% people still likely to continue to work from home, whereas for contact center, the number can be as high as 15 to 20%. And when this is happening, what really is important to have an organizations that the business needs to align stakeholders to create value for customers. They need to ensure a collaborative workplace where each employee is equipped with the right tools, empowered with access to right information to complete tasks assigned to them. In the same light, it would be critical to maintain collaborative connection with business partners and customers to innovate and achieve success for the future. So what's the organization gonna look like when we are moving into this new era, what we call the new normal, right? The post-pandemic connected organization is going to be redefined by 3 distinct features under business agility, the readiness, and the smart work environment. Now, agile organizations are quick to respond, reset, and rebound, constantly adapting to changing employees and customer needs. Today's employees want flexibility. They want better work-life integration and a greater choice of how, when, and where they work. And I think business benefits of such practice is pretty well known. The organizations can definitely gain from operational cost savings and the ability to tap into a global talent pool, right? Now, someday we're gonna go back to work, right? And this is when we really need to think about what are the different things we need to be readying ourselves with. Now, people space 6 feet apart, one-way paths, and the modified workspaces from elevators to cafeterias to meeting rooms will probably test businesses in unimaginable ways. The transition to temporary will build stronger, more resilient operating models. And the other thing which really is going to be critical is how we're going to be taking advantage of the data which is available then. The analytics and data-driven insights will be essential for us to then navigate in the post-COVID era. This is what is likely to empower businesses to make informed decisions by providing an actionable lens into employee safety, customer and employee engagement, and business performance. So the future is in the distributed organizations. And with that, what I mean is smaller, cross-functional, nimble teams tied together by digital collaboration. IT must be ready with a scalable, uniform, and structured policy to enable the new ways of work. Now, in the new ways of work, what we expect out of those few changes, definitely what we see is video first experience to become the norm. And what I have seen also people talking about that video is the new voice, is the lifeline of any organization is going to be. And I think from our experiences in the recent past, we can very well attest to that. And with that, what has happened, that our earlier forecast for video as a percentage of total online meeting, which was at 10% at 2018, we are expecting it to be 40–50% in 2023. But in this year itself, we have noticed that we are already in most of the countries going over 50%. And I think by default now, everyone is making a video call, just whatever collaboration provider they have been using. So in those countries where it has not yet reached that mark, probably it is just about to reach. It's probably in the range of 30–40% of the total already. So based on that, we really had to refocus what we thought the future is going to be. Now, if we look at cloud video and web meetings, you can see the differences here. That earlier forecast what we had and the new forecast, there's a tremendous difference of 7% in the CAGR for a period between 2019 to 2015. So what we're going to see is that most organizations will be adopting cloud web and the video meetings, and the licenses for that is going to have a huge increment. Now, before I move on to the next topic and discuss a little bit more about, so what next, right? I would like to take a quick poll and understand what's the sentiment of the audience at this point of time in terms of going back to work. Can I have the next poll, please? So what we are trying to do here is trying to understand that the sentiment around remote work or going back to work, right? Now, I believe some of us, even though have not really experienced how is it to be working from home, once we kind of started to do that, I think we kind of realized that, oh, there's tremendous benefit. Certain things which we thought was not really possible earlier, we realized that it's really possible. Let's have a look at the results. Wow, this is really fascinating. That, looking at the total number, 100% time work from home, 10%, not a bad number. 75% want to work from home most of the time. We have over 32% of people. So looks like over 80% of the people would like to work from home, right? In the next future. And this is again, probably something which kind of going to dictate the future and what's the kind of investment the organizations are going to move. So if you're looking at what's next, right? At this time, probably it will be fair to say that we have moved from the stage one when we are looking at keeping the employees safe most of the time was the priority to successfully to the next level, next phase when we are looking at keeping the workforce and workflows, workplace transformation, right? And this is when we are talking about hybrid work. Again, the focus is on anytime, anywhere work and seamless work-life integration. We are expecting a flat organization, distributed and dispersed teams, smaller and most distributed offices footprints. And at the same time, probably we'll see a mix of internal and external talent, a full-time employees working with gig workers, contractors, freelancers, and a lot more emphasis is likely to be on team building, renewed focus on employee engagement and training. But what really gonna be the key is how we're gonna go to the long term, that transformation. And that is when I think we're gonna look at hyper-connected teams. That's when we really need to see accelerated digitization. We are already on that path. We have kind of started off, and I think COVID has that impact in terms of digitization. And we are already seeing that increased need for collaboration tools to connect dispersed in-office teams with the remote workers, as we saw that over 80% of the folks would like to work from home most of the time. And then from that perspective, we also see huge demand, huge need for video. Video becomes the new voice to be connecting. And at the same time, we really need to see that, the cloud-based as agile unified communications. So with that, what I expect is no more technology silos within organizations, so that, everyone is having access to right kind of information at the right time to be able to kind of do the right actions for their job. So the ability to liberate work from its traditional boundaries and take it anywhere is offering an unprecedented opportunities. And the foundation of tomorrow's distributed work is built on connected teams, glued together by next generation collaboration tools, such as team chat, video, content sharing that keeps everyone engaged and on the same page, no matter where they work from. So now is the time to make decisions that, we understand we really need to work this way, but how do we go about doing it? And from a practitioner's perspective, what we really need to view is that one size doesn't fit all. Just because it worked for someone doesn't necessarily mean that it would work for you too. So many businesses have been planning the collaboration transformation for years, and now they just had to do it within the past few months, right? And they are forced by the circumstances. Now, you have an opportunity to plan for that future, what you're talking about, the hyper-connected work. To stay competitive, you need to ensure that you create a collaborative workplace environment, embrace the cloud, and this is gonna be key. You really need to leverage the flexibility of cloud architecture and services. When it comes to partnership, that's gonna play a very important role. Partner with a company that is going to be your partner for the long run, a partner that aligns its technology roadmap with the market trends and able to address your evolving needs. Throughout the process, you really need to focus on business outcome. Think about what is that the team is looking to accomplish. It's not really the bells and whistles, but beyond that, it's not the new thing in the market you really go after, but what it does for you. That's gonna be really crucial for any one of us evaluating any technology piece going forward. And one thing we just realized over the time in the recent past is just be prepared for the change. And right now, the way we have seen that we really had to change, and that to overnight at such a scale that was really never thought about. And from that perspective, I think we're already getting that kind of learning which we can take forward. And based on that, I think we are really moving into right direction if you're able to keep ourselves grounded and prepare for that change, right? So thank you very much for your attention. I hope you, your family, your friends, your colleagues, and everyone remain healthy and stay safe. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Krishna. Thanks very much for talking us through some of these topics. We've had a few questions from the audience, a lot of interest. One of the top ones I thought was particularly of interest was how can organizations prepare for the training necessities that are associated with working from home? What do organizations need to do to ensure training is managed in the right way?
Great. This is again goes back to the real need of the organizations as well as the people who are actually going to use these tools. We really need to understand that this is something we never experienced before, right? And from that perspective, we really need to be at times, if need be patient with them and focus on what is that the tool do, right? So probably we'll have to start focusing on like, okay, to get the bare minimal, what is the kind of thing we need? And then how do we kind of create that kind of advanced level of usage? And for any tools perspective, I think it's really going to be important that whatever we adopt, the usability of it, the user interface, that's really need to be intuitive and easy so that the users can already start to play around and figure out. And of course, we really need to also create a community where we can seek help from each other from organizations deployment.
Absolutely, thank you. Broadly speaking, what do you think organizations can do to overcome the biggest teething issues that are associated with remote working?
Well, if we have to look from the different phases, I think in the beginning, we had a lot of issues related to getting the technology in places itself. I think Fadi touched upon on the hardware aspect of things when we kind of struggled to get the laptops, the devices, be it the webcams, the web conferencing tool, or even the application to the people who really needed them, right? But I think we have overcome that stage. And I think now the focus really is onto people, in my opinion, because what I have seen happening now is over the day's work, people are becoming fatigue of meetings. I think now there's a term called meeting fatigue. And I think we really need to be mindful of that as well. Because when we were in office, we really had the opportunity to take a break, take a walk. But now we are just in there and in, day out. We have been just one after other. And I think that's one thing which I would personally think that organizations, as well as team, the folks we work with, we really need to be mindful and be kind of create a culture when we consider about the vulnerabilities around this as well.
On that kind of note of employee happiness, I suppose, in terms of, well, like you said, looking at people in terms of people, not just as resources. Obviously, the consumerization of IT has had a huge effect on enterprise IT over the last few years, certainly. But do you think the rise in remote working will put even more pressure on organizations to give employees exactly what they want in terms of technology?
Well, I wouldn't like to say that putting pressure as such, but I think this is a great opportunity for IT to become a great ally for the people. Because at times we probably need to understand that, that why do we use a different tool than what is already being given to us? It's because we want to do certain things and we find an easy way out. But at the same time, when this is happening, right, and we just kind of get into using tools or applications, which works for me as a member, my team members, and a broader community, how easy it is, how seamless it is, and bringing all those benefits. But at the same time, when IT is looking at it, it shouldn't become for them to a showstopper in that sense, right? So IT really needs to be supportive of those. At the same time, giving that kind of importance on security issues, the compliance issues, which may be coming because of that, right? And I think that's a critical part to play. So I think what ideally should be the case is that we are more appreciative of the business folks or the users taking initiatives, and then feeding that input in the IT buyers or the influencing community as well in terms of the IT buying decision happens.
And just one last question. Broadly speaking, I know we've kind of touched on this already, but which kinds of technologies do you believe or do you expect to receive the greatest investment in the new normal?
Well, I think what we kind of touched upon earlier is a situation when we have hybrid work, right? So it's not really just about people in the office and everyone is just using a similar kind of things when they're at work. It's a matter of how you are kind of able to create a connectedness through the kind of tools you implement. So whether it's internally within the organizations or the external organizations. So from that perspective, I think you have already noticed that collaboration tools has really gone through the roof in terms of adoption. And the way people are using it's also kind of varied. And we never thought that the particular tools what we have and kind of used earlier, or what the main purpose when we kind of bought. And it has really differed a lot. And we have come up with new use cases. And I think that's what happens, that, once you kind of liberate people, and then they come up with new use cases, and that kind of creates new and new. And the things what we have seen in relations to video, that continue to gonna go up. We're going to see a lot of infuse of AI and analytics, those kind of applications, even within the collaboration technologies as well. So if you have to look from the perspective of overall organizations, I think the key emphasis is going to be how do you kind of implement the technologies to get all these people in. So from that perspective, the collaboration technologies are definitely going to be one of the key areas of investment.
Absolutely, I can't disagree with that. Thank you very much, Krishna. If we could just keep you on screen for now. We're now going to move on to today's panel discussion, which will discuss, again, a lot of the themes revolving around remote working. Firstly, welcome back, Fadi Hani, the Vice President for the Middle East, Africa and Turkey region for Avaya. Next, it gives me great pleasure to welcome a regional digital transformation expert. He is the Director of Digital and Managed Services for Moro Hub. Please welcome Hussam Al-Kuz.
Thank you, James, and thanks, Fadi and Krishna, for the great presentations.
Thank you very much for joining us today, Hussam. Very glad to have you here along with Fadi and Krishna. I'm going to get this discussion underway by asking you, Fadi. Again, we've talked about something Krishna has touched on then, this idea of hybrid working. But again, obviously, this transition to remote working is going to need balance in a lot of respects, right? So just how important is it that organizations strike a balance between the right technologies and processes to ensure that remote working is successful?
No, James, it's extremely important, as a matter of fact, to strike that balance. I'll give you an example. If you are, deploying a technology to monitor the adherence of an employee in his home office or her home office, that has the process to do that, and the tools has to, in a way, accommodate the fact that this is being the environment of the home. So the process of doing thing and the technology being used to do that has to be balanced a little bit in order to, be effective, right? So that's a big must to balance both. Yeah.
Absolutely. Hussam, again, thank you very much for joining us. There's always talk in the technology industry of the importance of getting this early mover advantage, getting a lead over your competitors. Just how important do you think it is to have an early mover advantage when adopting new technologies and working cultures in the age of the pandemic?
So we have seen that those who adopted these technologies early enough during the pandemic had the minimum business impact on their day-to-day activities. And let's take an example here in Moro, for example. We were one of the earliest to deploy these technologies internally across all of our workforce. And we have seen that not only one or two or maybe three collaboration tools was installed in every laptop and desktop of our employees, in addition to the remote connection, VPN access, etc. So we gave our employees the feeling of having connected to the corporate network, and we didn't have any disruption on the technologies. However, most of the organizations, or many of the organizations who thought they have a proper business continuity plans in place, thought that they are ready, but we found that technology is not the only thing you need to have it. It's also the training of your users. Many of the end users used Microsoft Teams, for example, or Zoom or Avaya for the first time only this year during the pandemic. They were not properly ready for that. So many ask questions such as, how do I share my screen? How do I use the whiteboard, etc., etc. So training was a great observation for all of us, for our end users.
Absolutely, perhaps a false sense of security for some, indeed, as you found. Krishna, do you believe, or rather, what do you believe have been the biggest factors so far in organizations who have successfully transitioned to a culture of remote working? Sorry, if I could just ask you to unmute Krishna, and Hussam, if you could mute as well. Thank you.
Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so what have been the biggest factors behind organizations who have successfully transitioned to remote working culture?
I don't think anyone would claim that their transition has been really smooth, but I think because no one was really prepared for this, right? And if we have to just look from the kind of minimal, that kind of impact, and then we see three different groups they would fall into. And from that perspective, the companies that had solid business contingency plan in place, they probably are a little better prepared. But the organizations that were already down the path of digital and communication transformation, they kind of been able to accelerate those plans when things happened. And of course, finally, those organizations who really had a strong relationships with their communications partner, I think that plays a huge role as well, because how quickly they are able to bring those folks, what the solution probably has been on-prem, and they really need to move on cloud to be enable those people to be working from home. So how quickly you are able to do that. So it really also depends on how strong those partnerships, those relationships were as well. So I think those would be the typically organizations who has done fairly well. And I think a lot of other folks are really struggling through.
Yeah, I would strongly agree with Krishna. I think people who has been moving on, making sure they remain on the latest. And I say this as a communication partner or vendor of many of the customers, were able to move smoothly. I mean, as simple as the employee will just simply work from home. He will fire up his laptop, use his soft phone, connect to the corporate network, and gets the right applications on his laptop. However, and this is, I'm not picking on some, just to say an example of the other extreme, some companies actually ask their employees to carry physical desktops and take it home with them in order to be able to connect. And even with that, they struggled with security, they struggled with VPN connectivity, they struggled with some of the applications to come up. So those who were ready, echoing Krishna's statement, who were ready from a communications infrastructure, were able to smoothly go and work from anywhere. However, others have, unfortunately, and I'm sorry for that, they have struggled a lot to get their business going.
Just on that note, Fadi, I mean, do you think, obviously for a long time now, the tech industry, broadly speaking, has talked about obviously digital transformation and the ways that it's affecting supposedly everything, right? That's kind of the message from the tech industry at large. Obviously, in light of current circumstances, that might just be becoming completely true, right? I mean, how much has the pandemic really changed that claim now that physical meetings are harder to conduct?
Yeah, again, unfortunately, James, we're seeing already companies closing down physical offices and representative offices, and maybe some of the services, even services offices, right? I mean, we have plans with some of our customers to go on digital to a certain extent that they are able by then to close certain service centers. That is, I am talking the fact. I am not, this is not, as they say, there's no sugarcoating here. It is looking like this, a more digital, a less physical, and a less TCO, less cost, and better ROI for the businesses to accommodate the loss in the top line. The loss in the revenue has to be accommodated somehow. Now, having said that, the good part of it is that, yesterday I was able to tour the Middle East and Africa, over a video call, so less physical, yes, but I was more productive meeting a partner in South Africa, a customer in Kenya, a customer in Jeddah, talking to them and seeing them on video. I was simply much more productive. And I think that this virtual, the new world of being virtual has improved productivity, has improved it in a way.
Sorry, Fadi, I'll have to press you on that slightly. Obviously, prior to the pandemic, you would have met those customers or those business partners face to face in the countries you've mentioned across the region. But do you think something is lost in that in being forced to conduct these meetings virtually?
Let me say it this way. I didn't want to lose it to start with. It's like the new normal. Like, this is what I'm saying. I'm saying in this new normal, we have to adapt. I loved traveling to South Africa. Actually, I did 3 trips last year only. So it's just that the fact that, this is the new normal. We have to adapt to it. Is it improving? Is it losing the personal touch? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But this is unfortunate. And we don't know when this will come, and we have to deal with it. It's just like admitting that this is a thing and, get on with how do I solve it, rather than dwelling on the problem. So this, the solution in the video collaboration and all of these tools is great.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Hussam, again, we've something we've touched on throughout the course of today's conversations, but how has the pandemic shown that specifically that agility and flexibility are really needed and essential in enterprise IT?
Look, it is obviously needed, and this pandemic has proven this. And the concept of the mobile worker has been around for a couple of years, and many organizations have deployed it, and they have shown to everybody that agility and flexibility with your enterprise IT is vital there. If you ask this question 1 year ago to some of the business leaders, many of them did not like the idea of remote working, and many of them had their own views. But now I believe the majority and most of the business leaders believe that it is important to be agile, flexible, and to have the proper IT infrastructure that supports the remote working and the work from home initiatives.
But again, I mean, just to press you slightly on the issue of agility in particular, I mean, how important is it that organisations are ready again for drastic changes, that they put the processes and technology in place to expect further disruption? Surely now lessons must be learned from what has happened. What are your thoughts on how organisations can prepare for future disruption and, again, needing to make decisions extremely quickly?
Yeah, sure. Look, even the most advanced technology industries, for example, if you take Google and Facebook, they announced that they will promote remote working for their employees until the rest of the year. Twitter, for example, announced they will make their part of their employees to work permanently from home. So the trend is there. We can see the move across all of the organizations, and we will see more in the future.
Absolutely, thank you. Krishna, what are your thoughts on how, let's not talk about employees here for a second, let's move on to, broadly speaking, consumers. How have their expectations shifted given the current climate?
I think for consumers, the first shock they got when they realized that the provider they are trying to get to is not, they are not able to get access to them because the contact center, they went offline, right? And then after that, they are trying to reach through other mechanisms. The emails are not working, the other channels are not really working. So when that happens, and there's so much of uncertainty going around, we are really left in a limbo, right? And no consumer really likes that. So from any consumer's perspective, the expectation when it comes to customer experience is about brands are listening to me. They are empathetic. They have that empathy about me or the situation I'm in, and they're able to be there when the time of need arises. And so from that perspective, I think any customers, whether it's the banking, whether it's the telco or the retail, anyone, I think the common theme there is we as a customer, we expect a personalized, very predictive, proactive, and productive interactions with our provider, right? And doesn't matter whether this is in the digital world or in the physical world. So we always want that. And the key, what really we look for is the frictionless when we are moving from one to the other or the rest. So we really want to have that context and people to be around. So what the concept of omni-channel experience, and that still does not, realistically, I don't see that with organizations, but that's the expectation. But when it came to something like pandemic, I think the expectation for great customer service was that when I'm trying to reach, at least I'm able to get through. That itself was already a good winning heart.
I mean, of course, customers can be so, well, consumers broadly speaking can be extremely unforgiving. Do you think that organizations who don't make these necessary changes will lose business? And again, how can that investment in technology be justified through that possibility?
Definitely. I think recently we have done some survey and we have noticed that, close to 80% of the folks, they buy on experience and, with a particular provider. And that's, again, very similar, whether it's different types of service provider, whether it's bank or the retail So when there's a good service, people talk about it to probably their close-knit community. And when it's bad service, they go talk about it to the whole world, right? So it's not only it's kind of impacting that particular person's business, but it's also impacting the negative influence around the globe in that sense. And being the social media savvy, being connected through internet, I think this is kind of multiplying in manifold. So organizations really, really need to be watching out for those every interactions and ensure that every interactions is as valuable as the next interactions as well. So we really need to look at investing the proper infrastructure so that we are able to track through the customers through its journey, and then able to help them when the need arises, rather than and going forward it will be even better when we are able to proactively reach the customer even before the issue actually starts hitting the call center or the organizations.
I would definitely agree with Krishna, and I would like to add also that customers now the expectation of getting first call resolution is much higher. People's patience is going low, and they want, if I make a call, I want it to be answered. I want my problem to be solved on that call. Therefore, there is more pressure on the person taking the call, the agents, and the organization itself, not only the agent. As we said, customer experience is an organization-wide. There is a pressure on the organization to make sure that that agent is equipped with 360 view of the customer, that he knows that this customer was on the web, he was trying to do a transaction, that transaction failed, he made a chat, and that chat turned into a call. The agent needs to see that journey of the customer, and that we lack a lot in many of the businesses. And as Avaya, we help customers figure out that customer journey, how customers come, and empower the agent to deliver that good service.
Fadi, I need to ask you on that note. I mean, you talk about pressure there that organizations now must put themselves under to deliver. Who do you think takes the blame if this kind of service goes wrong? Is it IT? Is it the business? Who does the finger get pointed at if things don't go to plan and customers aren't left satisfied?
Now, that's a tricky question, James. So if I go to what I said, CX is organization-wide. So today there is a division, and there are strict rules and responsibilities split between IT and business. So the business document what they want, the IT delivers, and sometimes IT makes decisions on the selection of the vendor, etc. However, I want to repeat that, allow me, that it is an organization. Everybody fails. If the customer is not happy, we're all in the same boat. So the customer interaction should be flawless, and whether it's IT who is in charge or business or whoever. Now, let me tell you this. If today we start a new company, and that company most likely will be an online company, right? Would that company has an IT department?
You're asking me if we have an IT department?
Rhetorical question. So it's would it have, businesses today, and the digital presence is the business in a lot of cases, right? What I mean to say as a rhetorical question is that businesses today are in a way digital anyway. So there's no IT and business, and this is my job, your job. This is everybody's job.
Well, yeah, I suppose you couldn't be more wrong on that one. I think that brings us up to the next poll question of today. Be keen to hear from our audience. So I believe the poll question is, what is the biggest benefit you expect to see from working remotely? Do we have any thoughts from our panelists here? Does anyone have any particular thoughts on what employees can expect to see or what they would like to see?
Let me take that opportunity to share my own experience, right? So from my perspective, what I really gain is an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening. That's my own time, right? And I think many of us probably just realize that that's a huge, huge gift considering the time poor we are, right? Otherwise, we're just mornings and we just start, and the day doesn't stop until the evening, right? And we're just out there working and don't have that time. So I think it would be great to be able to utilize those 2 hours which you can get, which otherwise you would spend on commuting to work, right, to get started.
So based on the results we're receiving from the audience, roughly 14% of our audience agree with you there, not having to commute. I suppose that relates to that extra time in the morning. However, the most popular answer is 48% of our audience who believe that flexibility to work from anywhere is the biggest benefit. Does that surprise you at all, Hussam, to hear that that flexibility to work from where you like, would you expect that to be the most popular thing?
Yes, I would expect so. Absolutely.
And yourself, Fally, do you think what would you have anticipated?
Well, I like the getting away from the office politics part, although minor result. And the commute, as a matter of fact, I think in a lot of countries, the commute is really a big thing, So people would like to reduce that commute, maybe spend it, like Krishna said, more with the family or owns time. In my opinion, I think the commute should have shown a bigger poll, but it might be that people in the audience are not struggling with that a lot, maybe. So some countries don't have that problem. Larger countries, and where the main districts are expensive in rent and people live outside, so the commute is really cumbersome.
Certainly. I mean, I suppose, yeah, it certainly depends how far away you live from the office, doesn't it? But yes, I think I was certainly grateful for the lack of a commute during work from home anyway. Hussam, do you believe, I can anticipate your answer on this one, but do you believe the rise in remote working culture will result in a surge of as-a-service IT consumption? I mean, surely that's nailed on, isn't it?
Absolutely. Actually, in fact, we have seen it here in MoroHub. As you know, MoroHub is a digital transformation service provider, and we enable and transform our customers in their digital transformation journey. So we have seen a spike in the as-a-service products demand. And the reason for that, actually, there are multiple reasons, but the number one reason is the time to implement. Because during the pandemic, every CIO and IT leader was rushing to deploy these collaboration tools, and they had to choose the as-a-service model because it's faster to implement. They don't have to go through the implementation stage, logistics, and as you know, logistics was very hard during the pandemic time. So time was a main important factor. Another reason why the spike in the as-a-service solutions is also to control their cash flow. Who knew we will have this pandemic last year when we did the budgets for this year? Nobody. So nobody did have some allocation for budget for this kind of collaboration tools. So this is why for cash flow management, the as-a-service offers less CapEx investment, less upfront investment, and it is pay as you grow. So you are paying per user per month or per seat per month. So it gives them the flexibility to grow or to upgrade or downgrade as they need. The other thing is the as-a-service model is also considered an outsourced of technology to a professional partner who will be able to support these customers with these services. And many IT leaders, we have seen that they prefer to keep their collaboration tools or any digital services in safe hands where they have SLAs, where they know that the capabilities of their technology partner is much more better than the capabilities of their in-house team. So yes, there was a surge in the infrastructure as a service. And the question I would say, is it going to continue after the pandemic or no? And I would say yes, because now finally a lot of CIOs and IT leaders and business leaders realized that we are getting the same results. In fact, the productivity has improved with using these collaboration tools.
I mean, certainly it's fair to say that I think speaking for the Middle East region in particular, I know that a lot of organizations have been reluctant previously in previous years they've been reluctant to kind of let their employees work from home. Perhaps not in keeping with regions such as the United States and Europe. But are you seeing a shift in attitude in that respect as a result of the results they've seen from technology?
Yes, and this shift will be continuous, in my opinion.
Yes, absolutely. Next question, actually, to Krishna. I would ask this to Fadi, but I believe he's already firmly stuck his flag in the ground. Krishna, what changes do you foresee in the office if and when people do return to a physical workplace? I know Fadi has been unequivocal in his belief that that won't happen. Krishna, what do you think? Do you think that's is that something that's likely to happen, and what do you expect to happen in that case?
Well, where you put the survey, the poll itself, it kind of showed that, you know, how willing or how keen people are to go back to work at this point of time. So keeping that in mind, I think one aspect which you definitely see that need to really change is how do we ensure that, you know, we are kind of following the safety guidelines laid out by the different organizations, whether it's the global WHO or the local government agencies. And then from that perspective, I think there's definitely need to be certain investment. And from that perspective, we also see that emergences of the hybrid office. We are likely to see fewer people will be in office. As you said, there's going to be staggered work, team A, team B, team red, team blue, those kind of settings, which I believe is already in place in some of the organizations before everyone actually started to go. Everyone started going to remote. And so there's also going to be different setups, I believe. And it's not going to be just the way we used to have. We're going to have that kind of distancing we need to maintain. We need to then rethink how we kind of utilize the spaces, the rooms, what we have is the best possible way, the optimized way. We're definitely going to see a lot more video equipment in rooms as well. Because as you understand that we're not really going to have a conference room filled up with 30 people. Now probably we're going to have conference room with 5 people. So we're going to have more rooms, more videos, that kind of thing. And probably we're also likely to see a lot more of BYOD because we have been using different tools and which probably, because being at home, we kind of have that flexibility of using whatever is we use in our daily life. So with all these kind of things, we really see the key changes we really need to consider. But on top of everything, I think the organization's priority is still going to be how do we ensure that, you know, when people are coming back to work, it's a safe environment and they can have that mental peace to be really focused on the work.
Excellent, thank you. I think that brings us up to our 4th poll question of today. The question for which is, what is your biggest struggle with working remotely? Just a quick glance at the options. I certainly think working too much is one that may resonate with our audience. Staying motivated is, again, perhaps a tough one for some. Let's see. Anything else that comes to mind, do you think, among the panelists? What is your biggest struggle with working remotely? Is there anything that sort of jumps out? Any particular reasons that jump out?
You know, definitely the you know, some of the noise around. You know, that's sometimes not easy to handle. You know, working at home, you will get all these surprises sometimes from the other family members, I would say. But definitely meeting colleagues and talking to people about our business and meeting our customers also face to face is really something that makes me struggle a bit, especially in our jobs where, you know, part of the job is really to talk to people and, you know, share the experiences and as well as receive experiences. So the learning, I think the learning is a bit, you know, and this subject raised earlier, so the learning, the development is going to have some pressure as well on how we do it properly so that we remain upbeat.
I'd like to add to what Fadi said, in addition to the noise, etc. Also, we face some of the challenges at home, such as the infrastructure readiness over there in terms of the telecommunication and the connectivity over there. Not everyone was 100% ready for that. In addition to that, I would support what Fadi said about the social part. In fact, there are new challenges arisen recently, everybody's talking about, which is the term of employee dehumanization. Okay, and luckily, a lot of organizations are addressing this challenge. Fadi just mentioned now they have this hangout room, for example, to make sure we have the social interaction with all of the employees over there. And many organizations are doing a lot of initiatives to address these challenges.
And if I may just add in another point in there is, if you just think this from office goers, the normal office folks, and the contact center agents. I think for contact center agents, the issues or the challenges of not having that social aspect is even higher, because the kind of fellow colleagues and that kind of, social aspect is huge, and you just can't take that away suddenly. And then, so it's not easy. And I think from organization's point of view, I think we really need to take note of that, that look, now we are asking people to work from home, and people used to use that space to rest and relax. And how do you kind of balance everything? And especially again, when that human to human touch beyond the family is again missing, and you are kind of also balancing the responsibilities at home as well at the same time, because it's no longer like you are really at outside and you're there, and sometimes you may just have to. So I think a lot of understanding needs to be there within our organizations as well, that it's not really the same way as what we used to have.
Maybe they should do like schools, ask some of the schools are asking students or parents, whether they want to send kids or work remotely. And that's on a serious note, because guess what? Some people might have health challenges that, so enforcing a certain, process or physical attendance might not be the best thing for the organization. Yeah.
I think it'd be good to see what our audience think of this. We're going to have the poll results, and then we can take a look. So our most popular vote for the biggest struggle with working remotely is working too much.
Well, that's
again, as something that's been touched on several times today, is the idea of, if you have back-to-back meetings throughout the course of the day, it can be difficult to escape. Very true. Also, distractions at home is another popular answer. And also, we also have, let's see, 14% of our audience believe staying motivated is again, it's something that you've touched on there, Christian, the importance of keeping people humanized, so to speak. I think we're going to move to a couple of questions we've had from the audience now. One question that sort of jumps out to me is, are there any particular jobs or roles that are likely to become obsolete in light of the current situation, the current economic climate? Is there anybody who feels they'd like to take that question? In that case, Christian, I'm going to pick on you. Which roles do you think are likely to become obsolete, if any, given the?
I think they always said that about the industry analyst as well, because I think now information is everywhere, right? And but thankfully that we are still somewhat relevant in different forms on Avatar, and probably there's not a very straightforward answer to that. But what I see is that certain folks will definitely have challenges in terms of the kind of role they used to have earlier. And a lot of them may be, say, customer facing roles in a retail and those kind of environment, for sure, definitely having challenge, because every business is going online. And we are seeing that that's a possibility that happen. And probably earlier we thought that's not likely. So now what we see is that a certain segment of role where people were taking services to people, and that kind of becoming kind of challenged by the whole notion of delivering through internet, right, online. And the e-business in that sense is definitely going to have an adverse impact on those kind of roles. So yeah, that's something which comes to my mind offhand.
Okay, thank you very much. Just back to you, Hussam. Again, obviously we've talked about you know, we've talked about your experience and what you've seen from customers at MorrowHub. Maybe we could talk very briefly about the specific types of digital services that you've seen an increased demand in since the start of the pandemic.
Well, it's a good question, actually. Mainly, we have received an increasing demand in the cloud services, remote access, and VPN solutions, etc. But mainly, the number one demand was for the video collaboration tools. And as a reaction for this great demand, we have partnered with Avaya, and we have launched our product Moro Connect. Now, Moro Connect is a product that takes the best technology, which is the Avaya technology, and we host it in Moro Cloud, which is hosted here in the UAE. And this actually closes a big gap in the market here, because many of the organization entities or banking or some specific verticals in the industries, they are worried about the data residency, they are worried about the security, and they are worried about sometimes the performance. Because if you have it on a public cloud that is hosted in somewhere in Europe or US, you will have this kind of latency, etc. We wanted to provide a near real-time experience to our customers. So this was a very successful partnership where which had a lot of interaction in the market here. And jointly with Avaya, we have also offered some free of charge licenses for 3 months at the beginning of the pandemic to enable these government entities. So yes, video collaboration tools mainly was the number one in demand.
Absolutely. We're running out of time. We're getting towards the end of today's webinar. So I'm going to move to our last question of today. This goes to all three of you, so I'll take it in turns. Very broad and somewhat philosophical question, I realise, but Fadi, I'll ask this to you first. If you can summarize in a sentence or two, if possible, how do you think remote working will change the world? No pressure.
Okay, how it will change the world, you know? So it is going to accelerate that move into virtual, doing business as virtual. It will just accelerate it. You know, remote work was there even before, as I mentioned. So I keep on going back to the fact that there is nothing that was not there before. What happened is that it's just multiplied by a gigazillion something in growth. You know, it's just, so remote work was there, but was a small percentage. Now it's a much bigger percentage in a faster way. So it is going to change it in a way that people need to adapt to this virtual engagement, you know, the kind of thing we're doing here right now, getting engaged, learning through seeing people over video from other countries, and even delivering service in this way. So a lot of customers now talking to us about delivering service through video. So instead of contact center, it's a call, it's a video call. And that was also available before, but mainly for the, let's say, the elite or the VIPs. But now, you know, why I can't do a video call to my bank or to my service provider? That is becoming now a new norm. And in a way, that is a good thing. That acceleration of adoption of the new virtual world is how it's going to look like.
Great, thank you very much. Krishna, how do you, again, if you can do your best to keep this kind of as concise as possible, I suppose, how will remote working change the world? What do you expect?
I really agreed with what Fadi mentioned, but I would like to still go a little broad base. And from my perspective, I think this is kind of teaching us to embrace change and embrace employee values. That change is inevitable. It is likely to happen, and probably we are really getting into that kind of mindset. And probably from that perspective, we really need to enable people to work the way they ought to work. And probably that mindset is definitely going to be the shining light for the future.
Thank you very much. And Hussam, you get the last word on our panel. How will remote working change the world?
Yep, I will say flexibility and agility. I will say during tough times or pandemic, you don't want to be a Titanic, you want to be a speedboat where you have this maneuvering capabilities. You have the flexibility to tackle all of these challenges quicker and agile.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And thank you to all our panelists and speakers, indeed, Krishna and Fadi, for sharing your insight with us today. Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, thank you all very much for joining. On behalf of the GITEX team and Dubai World Trade Center, we'd like to wish you all a sincere thanks for joining us today. A very big thank you to you all, and we look forward to welcoming you all to GITEX Technology Week from the 6th to the 12th, 6th to the 10th. 6th to the 10th of December at Dubai World Trade Center. Thank you all very much. Thank you, gents.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you,
See you in GITEX.
See you there.